Hello and welcome to Moving Forward. I'm Abdul, and of course the wonderful young ladies here with me as well.
Dara, Hamilton, and Mr. Ali. I can never complain about moving forward.
Absolutely. Well, that's the best way to move. Absolutely. Is forward. Absolutely. All right. And tonight we're going to be speaking to a wonderful lady called Charmaine Samuel. And we're going to talk to her particularly because she had lost a son of hers who committed suicide. And we know that recently individuals in the community have chosen that path to go home. And it's challenging, but this is the way life is at this particular time. So we'll see if we can find out what led up to this and some of the things that she's doing, because she's been very good in terms of keeping his memory alive. And despite the struggles and hardships in that area, she's been extremely focused. So it's nice to have her here with us. So, Charmaine, good evening. Nice to see you.
Good evening.
Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about, give us the full story, the whole story.
Okay. Bear with me, okay? Good evening to everyone. My name is Charmaine Samuel. I'm going to give you a little story about exactly what happened to me on December 8, 2010. While I was at work, I received a phone call stating that my son, Leo Emmanuel King, had committed suicide by hanging himself in his apartment closet. To be honest with you, I never thought of that. I got the phone call with my daughter screaming in the background saying that my son had committed suicide. I left the client in the chair. I break all stoplights going to Princess. And all I'm saying to myself, no, it's not true. It's not true. By the time I reached at my home in Princess, everyone was there waiting because they said that my son committed suicide. I had a silver table in my home, and believe me, I pounded that table because I couldn't believe it. The next morning, I got up and I just walk. To be honest with you, as the years go forward, my question to myself is if my son really did commit suicide. I have no closure. All I have is a death certificate, and that's why I'm living at. I've been in depression for 6 years. After my son committed suicide, I ended up in a divorce. So that was 2 whammies at one time. Being in depression for 6 years, it wasn't an easy dark hole. If you're not strong, you'll never make it. But I pushed through and I pushed through. And one day I got up and I speak to myself. I watched myself in the mirror and said, God says, Charmaine, you worth something. And from that day until now, I struggle at times, but I'm going to let you all know, I am not to the weakest point to harm myself, because I know God brought me this far. So after being in this depression for 6 years, I started doing outreach for my son, different activities in the community, feeding the homeless, feeding the elderlies from east to west, doing outreach with Fredericksdale Health Center. And, you know, it's just a lot. So, I mean, I have it here, but, you know, it's going to take some time to read. But I enjoy doing it, and that makes me feel better, like I'm doing something for the community, because my son committed suicide. And if I can help someone, I will do so. You know, in my process, I reach out for help. I go to my therapist, Dr. Dara Hamilton. Sometimes me and she, you know, we're not on the same page, but still, yet I enjoy going to her. So all I could say is it's just a lot. And we as human would judge someone to say, well, oh, I must get over my son's death. But this is grieving for life, and it's hurtful for life. And all I'm asking the community to bear with someone that have lost a child, because it's not an easy road.
It isn't.
It is, you know, some people is not just, they don't have no compassion. And I can feel the spirit. Mm-hmm. I can really feel the spirit when people, you know, is like, okay, mm-hmm. you're tired talking about your son. Mm-hmm. No matter what, that's my child.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay? And I would never say he was right for what he did if he did it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But I reach out to anybody, you know, any families that get hurt by any children or whatever. I feel that pain because I know that road that the mom is going through or the family.
Yeah, so let me jump in a little bit, Charmaine, because I know you've also provided so much support to so many people in so many ways. And I'd love it if you could talk a little bit, because I don't know if Mr. Ali or anyone else, or how many people else out there know the different activities that you've been doing over the years, and just your openness to be able to say to other people, you know, I've been through a hard time. I'm here for you as well. I'm a support for you as well. I'm an example for you as well, because you are definitely an example in terms of navigating something so difficult. So can you tell us a little bit about some of the activities that you've done and about the activity that's coming up next month?
All right. I have a small group that supports me. All I have to say that I'm doing this and they're right there for me.
Help. Yeah.
Okay? So over the years, this is what I can recall I have done. I started out at the Lutheran church in Christiansted, and the activity got so big that I wanted to change it to Canigata Ballpark, but that's when the hurricane come, Maria and Irma. Mm-hmm. You know, have many people that I have to thank, when, you know, I don't want to forget anyone. You know, I mean, I'm being honest.
Yeah, you definitely have a lot of support. And,
yes.
And again, that's part of the example that you give us in terms of how a community can come together, and ideally how we can come together to support someone and support someone's positive initiatives in the community. So if you feel like you want to call people's name and thank them, please feel free. Okay. I know it's hard to remember everyone who comes together as well.
I did a food give back to the Lutheran Church in Christiansted on more than one occasion in 2016, 2018, May 31st. I did at the Christiansted Lighthouse. 2017, I did a next food give back to the Lutheran Church. 2019, the same thing. September 6th, I did a Heavenly Birthday celebration at the elderly in to Sunny's housing. September 19, 2021, I did worship service to Lutheran Church. November 6, 2021, I did his Heavenly Birthday at Flamboyant Garden. December 5th, 2020, I did food give back with the Fedgerstel Health Center. We went to the different communities through the island, and we give them packaged food. December 10th, 2022, that's the first time I decided to do a walkathon. I wanted to get away from the food and did a walkathon. And then after the walkathon, I'll have a Caribbean breakfast for them. And October 27th, I did a pop-up luncheon at the clubhouse at Charles Howard.
Absolutely, this is really amazing. One of the beauties about all this is a challenge, but it's brought another side of you out.
What's the other side?
Well, the side of putting on these activities, staying with it for a period of time.
The reason why I am doing this, and because I'm a person, I look down on no one.
Right.
Okay? Because those homeless out there, I could have been there.
That's true.
Because your mind is a powerful thing.
Absolutely.
So I know Charmaine could have been in the street of St. Croix.
Absolutely.
So I look down on no one.
Absolutely. Well, I think you're doing a wonderful job. And it's unfortunate in a way that it got tied in with the whole thing that happened to your son. But this is a side of you which is blossoming and growing, and it's fulfilling. And I hope that people who find themselves with some sort of challenge in life could feel this certain way, that this is the time to go on and do what needs to be done and get some help and some support.
Well, my therapy...
Some other people would just turned away, you know, they wouldn't have done anything at all. But you being going as strong as ever.
And you know what, and to jump off of what you're saying, it takes a lot of strength, a lot of courage, it takes a lot of faith, it takes so many wonderful resources to go out and hold some of these, to hold these events.
Absolutely.
I've been to some of them, and the organization, just basically the organization that it requires to bring all that food and all those resources and all the products. I feel like at one you gave away some self-care supplies and stuff like that too. I feel like to
the elderly in Sunny Eyes.
Correct. And so to just get
all
all
the
this
elderly in Sunny Eyes, I got over like 300 cases of water.
Donations.
And each tenant could have get like 2 or 3 cases each.
Right.
Absolutely. So Sherman, you've definitely been moving forward.
Well, this is what I do on my own.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You're being inspired, and somebody in your mind, whether it's your belief in God or whatever, but this just said, look, this is the time for me to do these things and to keep the memory and lifestyle of this young man.
His name will never die.
I see that.
Never.
Sure, you see, and that's really very, very important indeed. So I hope, his name is Leo King. Right?
Leo Emmanuel
King, yes.
So last year was the first annual Stomp Out Suicide Walkathon. Can you tell us a little bit about how you decided to come up with the idea of a walkathon, what the experience was like, and maybe for people out there who want to be as involved in the community as you are and want to organize events for the community benefit, just help us understand what that process is like. I don't know, what you,
I'm a person, I like to go the opposite direction.
Oh, okay.
I'll be honest with you, I like to go the opposite. I don't like to follow the crowd, and I know I have touched many lives in the community by food-wise, and, one day, my spirit told me, Charmaine, try a walkathon. And honestly, I was very, second guessing, but it went really well. And, I decided to keep it this year again, and that will be my forthcoming from now on.
Absolutely, that's
and
beautiful.
Just having a cruise and breakfast afterwards, while supplies last. And this year, I'll be having Dr. Amanda Holmes, wellness physician. She'll be doing a little talk, and also Beautiful Dreamers. She is, she went along with me last year, and I thank her for her support along with Dr. Hamilton.
Absolutely. I want to just ask you a quick question. Sure. People who commit suicide, what leads up to that?
Well, there are so many factors that can play into someone's making a decision to commit suicide, but we do know that when people do make that decision, they're oftentimes in a lot of pain at that time or at that moment. So a lot of times people are feeling like there's nothing I can do to escape this situation, and this is the solution. It's a solution to something that feels very painful and inescapable for me. But we know that there are lots of factors that can play a role in terms of ultimately making that decision. We oftentimes don't know what people are struggling with unless they tell us. We don't know what their experience is. And we know that a lot of times we can't predict suicide. And that's because no one's given us the sign. And then many of us are very good at hiding
the signs,
our experience.
yes.
We are very intelligent, and we're functioning well, and so forth. And so we don't want to bother other people with it. There are lots of different struggles that people are going through. And this is part of the reason why I appreciate Charmaine bringing the community together in this way.
Yes.
Because it's really through the support of our family, our friends, and our community that we can feel more hope, that we can feel encouraged, that we can know people are there to support us and to hold us and to help us get through whatever it is that we're going through. The other reason why I appreciate what she's doing is talking about mental health, talking about something that people oftentimes want to avoid but is operating in us anyway. Whether or not you talk about it, we're still depressed. Whether or not we talk about it, we're still anxious. Whether or not we talk about it, we're still lonely. Whether or not we talk about it, we're still angry, traumatized. Whether or not we talk about it. And so this idea of having stigma around asking for help or being a human being is really baffling, and it works against us to pretend as though we don't have these issues.
That's right.
One of the things she said, and I'm sorry I'm getting on my soapbox here,
No,
because I'm very passionate.
yes.
I am so passionate about the fact that we have to reduce judgment because we all have the same experiences.
Right.
We
We're
all
all
have the
human
same
beings, yes.
experiences.
Right.
We could say that somebody experienced worse than ours, but we know that we felt sad, hurt, lonely, scared, that we have had that. You know, that we've had that experience. And so for us to stigmatize somebody else, for them having an experience is really the same stigma probably that we levy against ourselves.
Sometimes we don't know. We don't really know what's going on in our minds.
In our
Things are
own minds?
happening, and we're not fully aware to say, yeah, this is how I feel.
But if we can
at this
suspend the
moment.
judgment about someone else's experience, it would really help. And it would help us to be able to be more vocal about things that are happening with us that may not feel, that we may not be, wanting to broadcast, or we may feel ashamed about. We must get rid of this idea of feeling ashamed about having certain experiences.
Just give us one or two quick little tips that we could use to
In
when
terms
we're depressed, when we are feeling that nobody else is having this problem. I'm the only one having it. A couple of tips that we can do.
You know, one of the things that we tend to do when we're having difficult emotions is we isolate ourselves, right? We don't want to talk to our friends or our family or other people about those things. We don't want them to see us as less than or as damaged or as something wrong with us or whatever. But one of the things that can help us feel the best is when we are able to talk to people who can accept us for whatever our experience is. And I think that's one of the things that as a therapist or a psychologist that is most freeing to people, is that they come in and they're able to share with you whatever the thought or experience or feeling is without being judged. And that is such a freeing experience. So I would say if we have people who feel very safe to us, being able to talk with them and saying, I've been feeling very lonely lately. I was talking to a friend of mine today that has suffered from depression and anxiety for a very, very long time. And I have hooked them up with a psychiatrist who's referred them to psychiatrists and some counselors, and we talk very openly. How have you been doing over this week? We talk about feelings of depression or anxiety that we've had, that he's had, that I've had at different times in our lives, and so forth. And so it's a real safe and supportive space to be able to share with each other. So hopefully people out there do have people that they feel I can connect with on this level, I can be honest with, because it encourages them to be honest with us. Oh, I had a friend one time tell me about a time when she was like sexually assaulted when she was younger, and so being able to share that tends to reduce the stigma that we feel about that. And it offers the opportunity for other people to share back with us and say, wow, well, that happened to me too, or this is what my experience was, and we can share in each other's pain and provide support. So I'd say find someone, and if we don't have someone in our environment, then we can look for someone who is a therapist or who's a counselor who's right outside of our environment, and that we can also share with. So we can also do the self-care types of things. For example, of the exercise, the eating well, the managing our work and our life. But a lot of this has to do with looking at how are we thinking, You know, what are our thoughts like? Are there cycles or patterns in our thoughts that we can break? And if we're having trouble breaking them on our own, then we can get some help with that, some direction.
And we could fall in love with ourselves as well, just the way that
we can start. You know, we can start babying ourselves, Mr. Ali. We can start really nurturing ourselves and talking nicely to ourselves. And when we notice ourselves putting ourselves down, saying, no, it's okay for us to be kind to ourselves and to be loving to ourselves. And let me start treating myself just a little bit better in terms of how I talk to myself and how I treat myself in life. And I think that goes a long way. And we can't discount the importance of our support system. Many of us don't have a good support system, or we don't feel like we can access them. So I really want to put that out there. If we're having trouble with accessing a support system, a therapist is a great support system. And they can even help us learn skills to access our more immediate support system with respect to our family and our friends. But community support is very, very important.
Charmaine, how does all of this feel?
To be honest with you, feel good. And I learned to live with myself. When I'm feeling down, I will speak to myself and say, Charmaine, you got this. No, I gotta be true to myself.
You got this. We have to encourage ourselves. You're right.
I know when I'm falling in a depression mood.
You know yourself.
I know myself. And if I could speak to somebody that understands me, fine. But I'm not gonna speak to somebody who's gonna scan me. I can feel that spirit.
Right.
I could feel the spirit.
Right. And so you're bringing up a very good point, which is catching ourselves when we're noticing that we're starting to feel a certain way and wanting to move out of it. It's a great strategy to talk to ourselves and say, okay, let's do this, let's do that. You know, you can do this. We can. Maybe we can have something nice to eat for dinner. Maybe we can watch a nice show on TV. Maybe we can call a friend. But you have this. You've been through hard times, and we can make it through this time.
Being in a depression mood, I would never wish that on anybody.
Well, it's going to happen to some people.
You know what, Mr. Ali, quite a few of us. Yes. Quite a few of us.
I've been in it 6 years.
It's part of life.
It is.
The essence of it really is to recognize we're in a depressed mood and to move out of it as we go along. And to also recognize if you're in a depressed mood now, there's going to be one tomorrow. That's the way our society is generally put up. So we got to constantly be aware that things are going to happen, that's going to press us down a bit, and figure out how we're going to get ready for the next press down.
Well, I try not to be pressed down too often. Because I do baking.
Oh, too hard.
No, I do my baking, and that's my therapy. Because if I mess up my cake, then I can't make my.
Tell us about your cake. Tell us about your business, and so I'm sure all of us have had your cakes. We have to have had them. They're in every they're in every gas station, every convenience store.
My name is Charmaine. Eats and Sweets by Charmaine in most of the gas stations from Christiansted to Frederiksted. And how I started this business is I wanted to extra income while my children was young, but I didn't want to go out and punch anybody clock. So one Christmas or Thanksgiving, one Thanksgiving weekend, I found a banana bread recipe in the Daily News, and I started making the banana bread and just start giving it away free.
Oh yeah.
And then a co-worker at work, she gave me a carrot cake recipe. Then my daughter brought home a plain cake recipe from her 7th grade teacher back then. And you know, one day I was walking, exercising, and I stopped at, they had a store across from Coca-Cola, an Arab store there, and I stopped and I asked them, you know, if they would like to purchase my cake. And from then, it just channeled and from east to west, like 30 ad stores.
So it's interesting because what that shows me, with all the events that you've been putting on, and these are some serious coordination events, you had these skills from back then because you are an entrepreneur, you are an innovator with respect to the cake business as well.
Okay, well, my mom was from Antigua, and I remember the days I was the one going to the market on Saturdays to sell rice pudding and sell provision. And I'll be honest with you, I was totally upset because, I mean, everybody going to Sunny Eyes to go to the movies, and I have to be up in the market from 4 o'clock till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And, you know, then she ended up selling provision at the Golden Cow. And afterwards, she ended up being a vendor at the Randall Doc James racetrack.
Wow.
And she passed in 2003, and I was the one helping her. And honestly, I was ashamed of, like, yeah, my mother selling candy. And one day with my oldest son, my first son, I was up in a stand with him. And believe you me, because I didn't want no one to see me, that was my mom, you know? And something told me, Charmaine, if you don't help your mother, who gonna help her?
Right.
And from that day, I went down and I started helping my mom sell her candies and everything. And, you know, she told my son, like, well, since your mom come and help me, I'm getting more sales because everybody knows Charmaine, you know? And when she passed, I took that over and was selling to the racetrack. So.
Well, clearly there is more to come, Charmaine. We're just at the start of your overall development and growth, and what you learn from your mother is really very, very important indeed, and just the fact that you could, and I think you're going to put it up now to just show us.
To talk a little bit about the event on September 9th.
Yeah. Suicide Awareness Walkathon. Thank God for life, stomp out suicide.
This is a poster that is made by Nyla at Optimal Printing, and I'm having a suicidal walk, stamp out suicide, on September 9th. I think the second Saturday in the month is the prevention of suicide, something to that effect. Yes. So I try to hold it on that second Saturday of, you know, every September.
Absolutely. Well, that's really very good, and that looks nice.
All I'm asking everyone to come out and support the worthy cause. It's not about Charmaine. It's just about a next family not going through my pain.
Absolutely.
Because this is a lifetime pain.
It is, that's right. Well, you're bearing it. That's
So just, I know a little bit of the details, correct me if I'm wrong. It's 5:30 in the morning that we will be meeting at the Lagoon, at the Pavilion Lagoon.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, we're going to be meeting at 5:30 at the Lagoon. The route will be from the Lagoon to the bypass, past the police station, back into Christianstead, and then back to the Lagoon.
Absolutely.
Right, and then light refreshments and so forth after. And I will say, last year it was really nicely attended. I think that there were
I was
100 people that were there, and we were able to do activities and breathing activities and have little talks and so forth. And
well, it's really very nice talking to you, and your struggle and the fact that you're overcoming them and just recognizing what has happened.
You have to be real to yourself, you know.
That's right, yeah.
Once you're real to yourself, you're going to get by.
Absolutely. Well,
it's so true.
We're going to try. Are you real to yourself yet?
Mr. Ali, I believe that I am.
Oh,
I believe that I am.
Yeah, I'm trying to be real to myself as well. So I'm going to get some of the tips from here and just work on them as we go along. But I want to thank you all. And I know two individuals here who are real to themselves. Earl Morris and of course George Matthew. They're being real to themselves for ages and ages, and they just know how to make it work so that we could move forward. So I want to thank you so much for sharing, and I'm hoping that people who see this would recognize that there's some problems in life and that we can't let the problems keep us down and keep, stay there. We got to survive and move forward and use our skills.
And before you, and go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I would like to say to the community, please, I'm begging, if you all have a problem, try reaching out for some help. Please don't take your life. Please, I'm begging. Because the pain I'm in is lifetime. Just seek help. It will get better.
And so, of course, we have the National Suicide Hotline, which is 988. And then there are other hotlines, there are other crisis numbers that we can find. We are in the information age. We can do searches for them. They're on different specific topics. And, you know, even though we live here in the territory, we can still access the ones on the mainland. We can call, and we can always have somebody who we can talk to in a moment that we feel like we're struggling. And if we're struggling in the next moment, then we call back. And that is okay. That is okay. And I think that you will find that that's the experience, that when we reach out for help, that there are people who are there who are willing to hear us, who want to hear us, and who are okay with us calling and calling and calling again.
But you have some people, you can't speak to them, Dr. Hamilton. Can they shut you down in a minute?
So this is why we're going to use the crisis lines, right? We're going to use the crisis lines. We're going to use those hotlines. We're going to look for a therapist. We can talk with our pastor, or a minister, or our priest. We want to find people that we feel safe talking with, and we can work on developing those relationships with other people in our lives that are safe relationships. Because you're right, sometimes we don't have people that we feel safe enough sharing with.
That's right.
But yeah, so definitely we want to reach out if we need help.
Forward.
Always moving
That's
forward,
the
Mr.
essence
Ali.
of it, yes.
Always moving forward.
Moving
Always.
forward.